Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Political Theater, everybody. We've got a big show for you this evening. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys are tuning in on YouTube, Rumble, Substack, wherever you guys may be showing up here this evening, thank you guys for being here. We got a lot to talk about tonight. Big show, lots to go over. Obviously, the story of the fraud in Minnesota continues to spiral, but now it's not just in Minnesota. So yesterday we talked about the land pirates across Minnesota, and some people are calling them welfare pirates now, which I find hysterical. I think that's a great name for them. But there's now, it's expanded to, I don't know, I think it's in 4 states now that we've actually seen. So we've got Minnesota, we've got Ohio, there was one in Vermont earlier, in Washington now, and it just keeps getting worse. Everywhere you look at it, there's more and more fraud. And the real problem is that the pirates are retarded. They're completely retarded. Every single one of them are. I mean, I guess it's not really to be unexpected. The average IQ in Minnesota is like 6. So, there appears to be nothing but idiots in charge of this. And you can see that on full display with the results and the response to Nick Shirley's video in Minnesota, because now the people from the Quality Leering Center have responded, and they have updated their sign. So they have updated their sign. They've now figured out that it is quality learning and that learning has an N in it. So if you haven't seen this yet, here's what that looks like. Apparently, we have a new image of this Quality Leering Center has had a patch applied to it here. So this is from the New York Post earlier. Something else, really. Amazing stuff, if you guys are just listening here. So that was, they're zooming in on there appears to be some sort of white patch that they've just put right over top of it. There's nothing special about it at all, but that's what they've done now. So that's the new Quality Learning Center actually does have its, the proper name now, which I find hysterical. But anyway, so that just happened earlier, but even better than that, and I think the best video that I've seen today in reference to this stuff is actually from the apparent, I don't know, spokesperson for the Quality Leering Center, and he is just as brilliant as you might think he is. So let's take a listen to this guy.
To Nick Shirley, the YouTuber, if he was standing in front of you right now.
I have nothing against him himself, but I do have the rhetoric. It's if you're going to be a journalist, just have a moral compass. Like, do what you do correctly. If you catch business that are fraud, no one here is with that, or like we don't support that as a community. I don't support that myself. I was born and raised here. I'm not for fraud. Like the notion that, hey, a certain batch of somebody got caught, so all of them support it. It's like, no one. If in any community, any mishaps that happen, the rest of the community obviously doesn't want that to happen. It's a stain on all of our names, as you guys can see. We don't want that to happen. We don't take part in that. We don't like that. We don't want that in our communities. But just to say, hey, a certain company got caught, so they must all do it, and I feel like that's what he's doing. I'm not a fan of it.
2 to 10 p.m. may not be your typical daycare hours, so can you explain why it is?
The reason for that is we're after school hours. So most of our clients, not most of our clients, all of our clients is after school hours. So schools, earliest dismissal would be 2:15 to 2:30ish, and the latest dismissal would be up to like 4:30ish.
If you're just watching, if you're just listening to this, it's kind of difficult to see how absurd this looks. So I'll just have to kind of stop and explain it here for those who are just listening in. If you guys are joining on the space, thank you guys for joining me this evening. This is the Political Theater, Walter Curt. Thank you guys. So the guy is completely cross-eyed, and he is still standing to this point underneath the Quality Leering Center. They haven't updated the sign. They hadn't updated it yet as of this video. And my favorite part is that they're acting as if the business is open. But in this entire video, there's a couple-minute long video here, you still do not see any children. Not one time in the entire video do you see any kids going to the Quality Leering Center at any point in this, which is just hysterical. I mean, they've got a cross-eyed idiot out there saying, well, I don't like what he's talking about with rhetoric, and I don't like the fraud either, but apparently, the best part of it is that they said the business was shut down. Now it's not shut down, and they've changed and put a patch over top of the front of it. So which is it? I mean, is the business open? Is it a fraudulent business? Are you a learning center or a daycare? No one has any idea. That's the real answer at the end of this. No one has any idea what they're doing over here, other than the fact that it's blatant fraud. They don't even have a working phone number. None of this stuff is real. But of course, they don't want anybody to know that, and they just want to keep talking about it as if it's not there's no fraud here. We're going to pack this place with kids. There's all sorts of people in here. I mean, The pirates are retarded, everybody. I mean, that's really what's happening here. All of the pirates are idiots. They're completely retarded. And the politicians are obviously corrupt and in on it. There's no way you get away with this stuff. And there's actually something really interesting that came out earlier. Breitbart had a story. They said in 2015, they found one of these fraud schemes. Okay, so they found one of these fraud schemes in 2015, and they said that what they would do is they would show up with the kids. You know, a family would show up with their kids. They'd sign in. They would sign into the daycare for the day, and then take a check and, you know, take cash from the people at the daycare and then leave. So they'd be there for a total of like 5 minutes, and then they'd leave. And by the way, and this is the best part of that. So I'll see if I can pull this up because this is great. So in the midst of that, they have a article. In the article, it says the biggest problem that they had and the way that they caught this fraud on this specific case, they said, well, they were charging too much. It's too much money. When you charge too much, it's pretty easy to determine if it's fraud. And that's that was from I think it's Hepton County or something like that in Minnesota. So he said it flat out. He knows that this is how you catch fraud. They know that's how you catch fraud. When you add too much money to it, you get caught. And what are they doing right now? Billions of dollars. So that's how you know that this is all, I mean, it's just as if anybody needed any more confirmation that everybody already knew what was going on here, that it's obviously a voting block for the Democrats, that they're using this as a means to get more voters, and their intention the entire time is, well, we know that fraud's happening, but we don't care because it's just taxpayer dollars that they're defrauding. They don't care about that at all. So long as the Somalians continue to vote for us and we like this voting block, we're going to keep being part of it. And that's what happened. That's what it looks like at this point. And if you guys want to read that article, it's on Breitbart. You know, it was on Breitbart earlier. They were talking about that's in 2015. So they know about this stuff. They've known about it the whole time. There's no as if this is some new thing that's just popped up out of nowhere. That's just nonsense. They've known about it the whole time, and they're completely complicit in this stuff because the pirates are idiots. You know, further than that, I started looking in, and obviously you guys are aware that what we've been doing here, what I've been doing is that I've been looking into the Ohio fraud, and this is stuff that I was going to come out with anyway this year. But, you know, now that we've kind of started to dig into it, we found something else that's pretty interesting. So, you know, I was wondering why I've started finding NGO companies that have, when you're looking at it through the state's websites and through the federal government websites, when you're looking at the way that their filings are, you start to notice that there's a bunch of companies that seem to sit underneath these 501c3s. Why are they doing that? I didn't understand what the purpose of that was. I wasn't really sure why exactly 501c3s would be connected with a bunch of LLCs. What's the purpose of that? Well, as it so turns out, and this is something I was unaware of until today, probably about 40 minutes ago when I figured this out, actually, it turns out that an LLC can be owned entirely by a 501c3. Did you know that? I didn't know that. That's something that's apparently new, or maybe it's not new. Maybe it's something that's always existed. But apparently it's called some sort of entity that is it's a disregarded entity. So apparently if the LLC operates in the mission of the 501c3, it can then funnel all of its profit back to the nonprofit. You see how that works? So they create LLCs underneath a 501c3. The 501c3 owns the LLC, owns each one of these businesses, and that blanket organization then funnels all the profits from those LLCs tax-free straight back to the nonprofit because, well, it's a nonprofit, it's a 501c3, tax exempt, right? Well, isn't that interesting? So, if you have a fraud scheme and you have a bunch of random businesses that don't do anything at all, well, then that's a pretty good way to create a massive network of money laundering. Wow, interesting stuff. And it turns out that we have stumbled upon in the investigations that we're working on out here a ton of these things, an absolute ton of them. And I don't think any of this is legal. I mean, I would be very curious to see if anybody has any information about how this could be legal. I don't think it's possible. There's no way that this is the way that this is set up properly. I think what's really going on here is that they have filed all of their companies in a way that they can figure out, you know, it's all tax-free. We're a nonprofit. We're here to benefit the, you know, Somalian kids community or some bullshit. I mean, that's all they're doing. And I guarantee you go look at each one of these businesses. And the ones that I've looked at, they don't even have like an office. They have nothing. There's nothing there. It's, you know, you look it up and it's like the backside of a motel building. I mean, that's what most of these things are. So I would love to see how the side of a motel building benefits the mission of some of these organizations. But this is how they're doing it, and no one seems to be stopping them. And in fact, the NGOs that I'm looking at are getting millions of dollars in tax funding. So we're quite literally paying the Somalian community to set up businesses to rob us. So they're not paying taxes, so they're robbing the American people of tax dollars right there, and they're being paid to do so. So I guess at the end of this, who is retarded? Is it us or them? We're paying them to steal from us. That's what's really happening. If this was something that was, if it was something that obviously the politicians weren't in on, then this would have already been all swept up, because it's blatant fraud, and some of the stuff that we're looking at now. It's complete blatant fraud to the point that nobody could accidentally get it wrong. There's no way. There's no way that you could get it wrong. And further than that, a bunch of these things are also donating directly to political campaigns. I mean, they're not even hiding it. That's what's amazing about it to me. They're not even hiding it. They're not even trying to disguise the fact that they are blatantly robbing anybody around them, and no one's doing anything about it. I mean, you look at some of these numbers. One of the companies I was looking at earlier, okay? In 2015, they had about $130,000 in tax funding, okay? In 2020, that went to $6 million. $6 million. That's because of COVID, obviously. But then it continued to go up, and then it went up again, and again, and again, and the total is something along the lines of $50 million in tax dollars. Well, no one's looking at that? Are you kidding me? There's no way you see that much of a jump that quickly. I mean, it's not like it's like a gradual rise over years and years and years. It's like, 100,000, 200,000, 3 million, and then 7 million, and then 10 million. I mean, like, what the hell? There's no way that someone doesn't notice this stuff. This is obviously set up by somebody, and they're obviously getting help. And that's the other part of it that we're looking into. We've also found some of these people. There's a group of people that are actually directly involved with these organizations that appear to be some sort of internal auditors, which, by the way, is hysterical, because the auditors themselves have been audited and said that they're not allowed to audit people, but they continue to audit. I don't understand how this is even remotely legal. I don't get it. It just appears to me that they don't prosecute. It doesn't matter to them. They don't care. They just do whatever the hell they want. So this is a pretty interesting setup that is happening here. 501c3s can actually own LLCs, and then they can funnel it back as a disregarded entity and not have to pay taxes on the profits from the LLCs because they're in line with the mission of the nonprofit. I had no idea that was a thing. I had no clue that was possible. And who the hell decided that was a good idea? I don't understand how you can have a for-profit company that's owned by a company that's supposed to be nonprofit. That's completely... What? Is the entire purpose... Oh, well, it's making money for the nonprofit. But it's still making money. I don't understand how that's even remotely legal, but that's apparently a thing. I didn't even know that. So I'm learning all sorts of new stuff as we're starting to look into this, and it's pretty incredible stuff. There's a lot of really interesting stuff out there, and apparently all of the Somalian community and all of the Haitian community all happen to have 501c3s just like this. So it really is amazing stuff, guys. So this is going to continue until somebody starts going to prison. And at this point, I don't know how many people are involved, but because the amount of fraud, this is something, actually Nick Shirley himself brought this up. He was talking, I think he was on Fox something earlier, maybe it was somebody else, I can't remember who it was, but at this point, the amount of money that's there, you don't just accidentally misplace $100 million, okay? You don't think, oops, if you're smart, if you're really good at fraudulent activity, maybe you can get away with a few $1 million. But when you get up to 100 million, and then you get up to $1 billion, and then you get up to multiple billions, no. There is no way that the politicians are not involved in this. And at this point, there has to be serious prosecutions, and they need to get us all the way down to the bottom of it. And I said earlier today, if you are a politician and you're brazen enough to take direct financial gain for your campaigns in this way, you're taking money from the American people, from fraudulent entities, and you're stealing it and pushing it into your political campaign so you can stay in office, you're going to get your name published everywhere. I promise you that. I'm going to make sure I find that out, because I've already found a bunch of them. I don't care if you're a Republican or you're a Democrat. You deserve to be out of office if you're going to steal from the American people and pretend as if you serve them. Okay? That's what's happening here. You're taking money from fraudulent organizations, pumping it into your political campaigns because you're such a useless person that you can't manage to actually stay in office without fraudulent money supporting you. That needs to end, and every single politician that's part of it should go to prison. Now, will they go to prison? I have no idea, but the first thing they can do is they can be removed from office. They can be voted out, and that's something that should happen right away. So that's where we're going to start this evening, guys. The pirates are retarded and the politicians are in on it, and they're the ones making all the decisions on this. That's where we're going to start this evening. This is the Political Theater, guys. Thank you guys for being here. If you guys are on the X Space, you guys can share the link out on the X Space. If you guys would like to join the show, if you'd like to join in and chime in and comment and talk during the show, you're welcome to do so now. You can do that by going to x.com, go to @WCDispatch, and you can join the show and chime in yourself. If you have any comments or anything like that, I'd like you to leave a comment down below. I do read all the comments. I appreciate what everybody has to say about the show. Tell me what you think about the show. If you got any comments, anything else like that, we can see it on the stream and I can actually look at this stuff. So, welcome to the show, everybody, and I appreciate everybody who's here. So anyway, what's up, Keymaker? How are you, buddy?
Hey, good, Walter. Just thinking, as you were speaking, I'm just thinking, like, what are the solutions? I really think that how we got in this position that we're in right now, where we're having this discussion, is from a lack of enforcement. But all that kept coming to mind was buckets of tar and then buckets of feathers, right? So I believe that tarring and feathering needs to come back, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, at some point, yes. I mean, it really is that bad, though. When you start looking at this stuff, it's just so obvious. Like, it's when you start seeing, one of the entities I was looking at it earlier, okay, they have 50 companies that are underneath them. And you start looking at the companies, and none of them, and I mean none of them, have a real business front. Like, they don't have a serious business. They don't have anything there. You look up like on Google Street View, and it's like the side of a building. There's nothing there. There's nothing there at all. These companies, each one of these things, what are they doing? What are they doing to make money? It's like a construction company that works as part of the LLC or something. Like, what the hell is it? I mean, there's nothing at any of these places, but apparently they're running it through the 501c3. And this is crazy stuff that I was completely unaware of, that this is a legal thing that exists, that you can have a 501c3 that owns an LLC. I think that's a major problem. Does anybody else agree with that? I mean, I think it's kind of a problem if you can have an LLC that is owned by a 501c3. That defeats the purpose of a 501c3. You're not supposed to have a for-profit company with an LLC. It's the opposite.
It's just as asinine as the NGO situation, where so the government technically can't do a lot of stuff. So then you have an NGO that props up, and then the government sends your money to them in order to say that government's not doing it, because it's a non-governmental organization. So it's one of those things, again, where it's like, we know it's happening. We need to I think we really need to focus in on these little nuances of these frauds, because now I think that when it was only a few hundred scams, it was okay. It was kind of like within an acceptable margin. But now we're talking about hundreds of thousands of scams are going on all across the country. We got to get this under control. We can't allow all of everything to become fraud, right? Like, fraud will destroy any system. It's one of the main things that come up in economic discussions if you take the classes and you talk to the professors. It's like, there are acceptable margins, right? And an unacceptable margin is going to be $9 billion in a state like Minnesota.
I mean,
what I mean?
That's right. You look,
totally
you think that's an unacceptable number, $9 billion. Maybe that's a little high. When do you get that down to, like, 2 or 3 billion? I mean, like, what the hell? I mean, it is so outrageous, the amount of fraud that there is, that it's not even, like, I don't even know what to say. Like, I don't even know how to refer to it as anything other than they have to be complicit. There's no way that this stuff operates at the level that it is without people telling them what to do and how to do it, and they're doing it intentionally. The Democrats are doing this intentionally. That's what my theory is on this. They know that if they do this, these people will vote in a giant block for them. That's what the deal is. That's how this is working. Now, there are entities, by the way, that I've found that are donating to the Republicans too. Okay, there are Republican things that are being tied into this, which is why I think we need to build a database that actually goes directly and correlates between the FEC stuff. That needs to happen. I think we need to have a adjustment between them. We need to see those, because if you have, I have long said I don't understand the concept of any 501c3, any 501c3 that receives government money. How is that organization allowed to donate to political campaigns? But that doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, I've never understood it, but that's something that's existed forever. I mean, Planned Parenthood's a great example of this, right? They get tons of government money. They got tons of government money for years, and they always donate who? To 100% Democrat political campaigns. Why is that legal? I don't understand why a 501c3 that supposedly gets money from our government is allowed to operate and donate to political campaigns. Why is that legal? I don't understand. If they'd say, well, it's separate money. Oh, horseshit. Money's fungible. If you got $5 million that you get in from something else, and then you use that money to pay for the, political campaigns, and then you get money from the government, well, then the money from the government gets to fund everything else while you use the rest of your money to fund for the political campaigns. It's fungible. It doesn't make any sense to try and claim that, well, it's separate money. It doesn't have anything to do with it. Yes, it does. It doesn't make any sense. This is stuff that we need to fix. We have to fix this stuff. And the fact that a 501c3 can own a for-profit company is ridiculous. That's completely ridiculous. That needs to stop. So, I mean, I don't know where that came from.
I don't even understand how that's possible, right?
I mean, that's right.
If you do the calculus on that, isn't the 501c3 then kind of profitable?
Exactly. It is profitable.
I
mean, that's the best part about it. Like, I haven't gone to the 490s of some of these businesses yet. So apparently the 490s tax form has to list the financials, because technically if the LLCs are owning each one of these, if the 501c3 owns each one of these LLCs, then the 490 form should show the financials, at least some of the financials, not the down to the bones of it, but it's going to show some of the financials for those LLCs. So my guess is when I start looking at this, that's going to look like a mess when I start looking at these companies, because as far as I can tell, this is just blatant fraud, that they just have it set up like this because, well, they can figure it out that they don't have to pay taxes if one big company owns all of them. I mean, that's, like I said, the one that I've looked at. What's up?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, well, then so the way that it seems to me when I was looking at it, it seems like let's just say that me and you somehow came up with a great idea and we started making 10 billion a month, right? You're going to be paying a lot of taxes on that, right? So one of the good ways and easier ways would be to formulate a 501 above you, and then funnel a lot of your profits, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them, to this non-taxable organization. That's how I'm viewing it. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I'm wondering if that's where the idea came from to allow it in the first place, with some of these mega corporations that had entirely too much money, to where they, anytime they spend money or anytime they moved money around, they had these taxable events happening. So maybe they just figured that they would use these non-taxable organizations, above them in a way, or, where they're funneling the money into them so they avoid the taxes. And then those organizations then give out the money to their pet projects. I mean, that's kind of how
here's the problem, though.
Look, too. I'm not a finance guy.
Listen to me. Just the fact that I figured this out today, the fact that it is even legal for a 501c3 to own an LLC that is a for-profit company is crazy. Okay, well, one, that's just nuts that's even legal, that's something that's common, apparently. Like, what the hell? What do you mean there's LLCs that are owned? Let's put all that aside to the point, though, okay? Because the problem is that that these companies, like I'm telling you, I've looked at these companies so far, a bunch of them. I've looked at, I'm looking at hundreds of them at this point. But now, I zeroed in on just one today, okay? And I started looking at this. None of these companies do anything. None of them. I mean, they don't have any business fronts. They don't do anything. It appears to me that most of them are just like a empty storefront. I mean, that's it. So it's obviously a money laundering operation. I mean, that's really what this obviously is. They've got it set up so that they put money into this company, and then it funnels it straight back to the NGO, and the NGO doesn't pay tax on it. I want to know how much money the people that run, by the way, the way that it works is each one of the 501c3s, each one of the LLCs has to be owned by a single individual. So single individual owns it, and then that's owned by the LLC. So that's how it works. Apparently, this is legal. So how much does each one of the owners of those businesses make, and where does the money go? That's the question. So I've got to go look at a bunch of 490 forms, which should be very boring and long. But at some point in the next couple weeks, I'm going to start publishing this stuff, because this is crazy stuff. This is wild stuff to see, because watching this means that there are entire networks of companies that don't exist, that don't pay taxes, that not only do they not pay taxes, we pay them to make money. We pay them from our tax dollars to make money. The NGO that operates them is the one that's paying for all of the financing behind them. Yes, Jacktron, go ahead.
So if you're looking for the 990 forms, those are usually found on places like ProPublica. Usually find all my 990 forms there.
Yeah, now, this is a 490 form, so this is a different form. So, but yes, I know where we can go find them. So I'm going to be looking for them, and I'm just going to go start looking through them and reading them, because my guess is that this is just going to be blatant fraud everywhere. That's what I think we're going to find out. And, you wonder why they're so pissed off. Well, yeah, they're pretty mad, because this is obvious fraud. That's the reality of it. It's very, very, very obvious
Yeah.
fraud.
Walter, if we could get our fraud down to, let's just say, 5% of the GDP, maybe that would be good. But according to Elon Musk, the fraud may actually be our entire deficit. It might actually, so our country may have been in the positive for a very long time, but they defrauded all of it, and they completely wrecked the system with fraud. So I would be happy if our fraud was like, a fraction, right? Like, let's get it down to where it's acceptable at a corporation. If you have a corporation where there's fraud going out above a certain percentage, I want you to understand the FBI will actually come in and investigate. They'll take all of your stuff, your computers and everything. They'll start auditing you, because if you're a corporation, and that's actually under the IRS as well, but they will actually come out if it's reported, and if they find out, you can't have fraud. Fraud is a big problem. Fraud is one of the markers of what you said, money laundering, terrorism. Yeah.
Apparently, if you're from the Somalian community, you're allowed to have fraud, and not only are you allowed to have it, it's promoted. Hell, they've got the mainstream media out here saying that this is great. Look at this. And the Quality Leering Center is a good organization of good, upstanding Somalians. Yes, very good Somalian people run this organization. How dare you make fun of them? Like, what the hell? I mean, the guy's standing cross-eyed, standing underneath a sign that he can't read, talking about a report that he doesn't even agree with. It's like, oh, no, I don't agree with this. Like, dude, it's just such obvious.
They put the sign up and it was wrong, right? Like, if someone sent me a sign, because the guy on the video I seen, he says that, like, it was, or they're trying to blame it on like whoever made the sign. If someone sent me a sign and it didn't say what I asked for it to say, I'm not putting it up.
Listen,
so the fact that they even put it up is mind-boggling to me.
It's amazing. It's amazing, guys. By the way, guys, make sure you share the space out. If you guys are tuning in on the X space, make sure you guys share the link out for there so everybody knows that we are live. And if you guys are listening on all the other platforms, if you would like to join the show and chime in yourself, you got to go to x.com, go to @WC Dispatch, and you can join the show and chime in yourself. My co-host here, one of my friends here, could just join the show on the live version of the show. This is Chris Marino. What's up, Chris? How are you, buddy?
Hey, what's up, man?
Doing just fine. Looks like we are just expanding the fraud. I don't know if you heard the rant that we were talking about at the beginning of this. So you had the idea. You're like, I wonder if there's some reason that these LLCs that we're looking at, Chris, you're like, well, why are they all underneath this 501c3? Well, it turns out there's a reason for it. There's a real reason for it, because apparently a 501c3 can own LLCs, and then they are considered a tax-exempt organization. So there you go. There's your answer. So all of those companies we're looking at, that's why.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I don't understand how that's legal, but clearly is. And 50 businesses under 50 LLCs under a nonprofit is pretty crazy. 50 childcare centers under a nonprofit is pretty sizable. You're talking at that point, you're talking about like Kids Unlimited, some of these mega corporate owned childcare centers. But we're not seeing that here in this scenario. This seems to be concentrated in one given area.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be that it's all based on, they're all under the same groups and doing the same things, and you go look at their storefronts, and there's nothing there. There's nothing there. These aren't real organizations. These aren't real companies, and that explains the whole game. Why are they doing this? Well, we know now. We know now because they get tax-exempt status. So we are paying NGOs. We are paying NGOs to operate for-profit companies so that they don't pay taxes. That's what we're doing. Like, what? I mean, it's the most absurd thing. This is where, at this point, NGOs need to all be defunded. Like, is there any of them that are useful? I mean, I'm sorry. At this point, is there any true NGOs that we need right now? If you're a non-governmental organization and you rely entirely on tax dollars, I'm going to determine that you are just a government organization and you need to be shut down. This is something that I don't even know how this became such a major, major thing, but it's now to the point that we're looking at it and they're just running blatant fraud everywhere. I mean, there's no other way to look at it.
Well, some of this happened after they made corporations equal to people and they could give unlimited amounts. And of course, these corporations, a lot of them are foreign funded. They have foreign investors, right? So then they manipulated this situation with the 501c3s and the 501c4s to take it to a whole new level. So with USAID money, obviously, we know, given Doge, how out of control that was. And so I don't see the need for NGOs. At this point, if you're washing money to political candidates if you're funding the Molotov cocktailing of Tesla facilities, the attacks on ICE, all of these bank accounts need to be frozen. They all need to be held accountable. I mean, they're openly brazen about it, Walter.
They are. That's what's crazy about it, Chris. The crazy thing about it to me is how brazen they are. They don't care at all. It doesn't matter to them at all that this stuff is happening. And to them, whatever, who cares? It's not important to us. Well, whatever. We're just going to have this stuff. Like, what on earth is this stuff, man? This is crazy to me the thing that was insane to me when I really started looking at this is that you see it in FEC filings. These companies are directly donating to political campaigns. It's not like they're hiding it. It is in the records, 100% right there. And now you got to go look. This is something else I'm going to start correlating soon. Okay, so the companies that are doing this, the ones that I've seen that are donating, I wouldn't be surprised if we go out and start looking, Chris. And this is probably something we'll find here soon. We'll probably be able to just go directly and see all of those companies. I bet you they all donate to the same people. I bet you they all donate to the same people. I bet you it is everybody donates, all those 501s or all those LLCs that are part of the 501c3s. I guarantee you that they all donate in a block to political campaigns because the LLC contribution limit is like $2,000. So my guess is that if you start looking at it, that what you're going to find is that it's going to go from $2,000 and it's going to come from 600 organizations and they're all going to get the same stuff. Every single candidate's going to have the same couple $1,000 donation. So I'm going to start looking at some of these candidates I've already looked at. I guarantee you we're going to start finding that a correlation.
Yeah, no, we're seeing the wash the money around, right? NGO to NGO. This is what I always laugh about when people say like, people for climate change or people for immigrant rights. And it's the exact same board of directors. It's the exact same funding sources. It's literally the same. They're just they're just passing it around like one big MLM. And so at the end of the day, we have seen what was I think created as a pro-American effort to combat communism, which was hijacked by actual communists, and they have perversed it to a different level to where they don't want us to have the America that we're used to. They don't want us to have the individual freedoms. They don't want us to have inalienable rights or a secure border. And quite frankly, they also don't want Christian values being in the mainstream. They think it's acceptable for the Riley Gaines of the world to have to battle her tail off just to beat a man who couldn't finish in the top 200 in the male's D1 swimming meets, right? And so these kinds of things have just gotten so out of control in this country. I really do think it's going to be smart for President Trump to travel around in the midterms, and any intelligent Republican would be getting on board with his agenda and begin to make the case today that common sense is on the ballot once again.
I agree with you. I mean, at some point, the common sense has to be on the ballot for all of this. But at this point now, I think what really should be on the ballot is get the fraudsters. Get them. I mean, just like seriously, at this point now, is anybody going to really argue that? I don't think anybody in the country likes the idea that their tax dollars is being used for blatant fraud. I mean, even it doesn't matter how hard left you are. If you hear that your tax dollars, did you pay taxes every single year? Everybody pays taxes, no matter how much you like it or don't. Which, by the way, there's somebody that just made a comment on one of the streams here. This is becoming a common sentiment of people saying, I'm not paying taxes until they fix this. I mean, listen to me.
That's wild.
Listen, hold on a minute, Keymaker, hold on a second. But listen, that's becoming a very common sentiment. And what are they going to do if that takes hold? Because I know people are getting pissed about this. I mean, you can see it everywhere. It's like, what am I paying for? You're wasting my money. You're defrauding with my money. How are you going to convince the American people that they should pay taxes every year? What are you going to prosecute 100 million people? Because if it starts to catch on like that, and several million people refuse to pay taxes, the government is a serious problem. They have a serious issue if people stop doing this stuff. I don't recommend it. I'll tell you right now, they will ruin your life. I mean, they will. I mean, if you try and not pay taxes, they'll screw you. I mean, I don't recommend this to anybody. I don't think it's a good idea. But that doesn't matter if you convince, if there's a couple million Joe Bobs out there that they're pissed off and they feel like their tax dollars are being stolen from them. What are they? Are you going to get mad at Joe Bob? I mean, hell, technically you wouldn't even notice. The government wouldn't even notice for a couple years because, sometimes you don't even have to file. People don't even file taxes for a year or so. Whatever, I missed it last year. I'll file next year, especially if it's only a couple grand or something like that you normally owe. A lot of people don't care. They'll do it whenever they want. So if you might have a lag time of 10 million people not paying taxes. That's a huge problem for the government. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do to fix that. That's why I keep looking at this like, you better fix the fraud, and people better go to prison, and you better figure out a way to fix it, because if you keep convincing people that they're not going to want to pay taxes, I don't think it's going to go well at all. I'll tell you that much.
The IRS is a huge employer.
Yeah, Walter. Sorry.
And so
I couldn't hear. Is Chris talking?
Yes, Chris is talking.
Yeah, the IRS is a huge employer in where I live, and I'm sure in other communities. The problem is that Americans have had enough. Like there is. I think it's an agreement. It's an American agreement. As much as I don't think people like the IRS, like they create. If you don't remember wrestling, they had to create like a character called the IRS in like the 1990-91, and he dressed up as like an IRS agent with dress shirt and black pants, and he was like a villain because people just don't like the IRS, right? But they understand that there's an agreement. If we're going to pay our taxes to support Medicare, Social Security, or whatever, it's an agreement and a promise that that's going to be there when they need it, right? And that is also not going to be politicized. And what we've seen through the Lerner scandal, we saw through the illegal release of Donald Trump's tax dollars, tax returns and other people's, this is a one-sided political attack where all of our personal information, or say if you're running for president of the United States on the Republican ticket, your information is no longer protected, right? They're going to politicize it. And, and then the media is going to support that because the media wants to see the tax dollars. They want to try to find a gotcha. And that's the problem here, is that there's been so much manipulation in the government. It's completely voided all trust by Americans, everyday Americans. I'm not talking about the hyper-political people. These are everyday, hardworking Americans. They expect their government to stay out of their business, to treat everybody equal and do their job. And right now, I don't see the return on the investment for people that are giving their hard-earned tax dollars to the government. It's literally going. We found out it's like 300-year-olds getting Social Security. The country wasn't even created, and they're that old. Like, this is insane.
Yeah, I mean, it just keeps getting worse. I mean, now when I found this stuff today, I was like, I was looking at this company. And I was looking at it. I was like, why is everything underneath this one 501c? I just didn't understand. I was like, I don't understand what. There's like 50 something companies that are all attached to it. And every single one of them, you go look at the storefront, it's not even really a place. It's, it's something completely bullshit. And I'm like, what? Why are they all under this? And then looking into this and finding that, it's an LLC that's owned by the 501c3. That's why it's under that umbrella. Oh, wait a minute here. Okay. So they're being paid to defraud our system. That's what it is. That's the end of it. I mean, there's no other way to look at it. And that's crazy. That's crazy that this is what we're finding out. This is amazing. And this goes back to, when Elon Musk and Doge was really ramping up, when all that was happening, everyone was like, wow, this is great. Well, we're tearing the government apart. And they went after him so hard. Why did they go after him so hard? I was trying to figure out, well, listen, if we find $9 billion worth of fraud just in one state has $9 billion worth of fraud. How much total fraud do you think? I mean, listen, if there's $1 trillion worth of fraud, if there's $1.5 trillion worth of fraud, which is what Elon said, he said 20% of the total budget, $1.5 trillion worth of fraud, that explains it. That explains a lot of it. Okay. I mean, that means that there is enough money there that you touch it and everybody that's their entire grift is based on it. Their campaigns are based on it. Their entire companies are based on it. You got to think about it. If you really, and that's something that you would have been able to see. You would have been able to trace that across all these companies if he had access like he did with Doge. I'm telling you right now, that's why they went after him. So now that this is expanded to other people looking at it, what are they going to do now? Because there's no way you're going to hide it now. You're not going to shut up 100,000 journalists. I mean, I'm looking at YouTube. If anybody has been paying attention, in Columbus, Ohio today, there was a ridiculous video of some lady that, some Somalian lady that's standing there. She's screaming, holding her phone. Looks just like Eddie Murphy, by the way. I don't know if you guys noticed that. There's a hysterical thing that Kevin Smith put out, and I immediately took the image and cropped in Eddie Murphy's face. I was like, it's the same picture. I mean, I'll put it up on the screen for those who didn't see this, but really it is amazing to me looking at this stuff. I mean, it seems to me that no one believes that these people are obviously doing anything legal. So here's the image of the original. I'll put this up on the screen here so I can share this. Here we go. So this is what the original image looked like here. This is the original image here. Now, the funny thing is that if you take that That image right there of this screaming Somalian woman that someone's, what does your daycare do? And she's screaming at the camera. Well, apparently, if you just take Eddie Murphy's face and put that on there, what's the difference? Anyone notice? I mean, I think it's the same photo. I think they might, where was Eddie Murphy this afternoon? I think I need to know. So that's just some funny stuff that came out today. But these are the retarded pirates. Okay, these are the people that somehow have managed to defraud us of billions of dollars. Billions. I mean, we know now it's well over billions of dollars at this point. We're talking $9 billion just in Minnesota. We're looking at, I don't even know how much is in Ohio. Okay, we haven't even got there yet. We don't even know how much it is in Ohio yet. But I know that what I've looked at, I've seen over $42 million just from one company, just one. So, how many of them are there? Because I keep finding them. Every time you start looking, you keep finding more and more and more. And now there's, databases are popping up from crowd-funded resources, and there's a bunch of people that are building these things out. Soon enough, all of this stuff is going to get exposed. And I'm telling you right now, all the people that are part of it, I don't care what political persuasion you're in. If you're part of this, you deserve every bit of vitriol from the American people is that you're going to get, because I don't care what side of the aisle on. People are not happy if you're just stealing their tax dollars. No one's happy about it.
No, nobody's happy about that. And obviously what's coming out of Washington, where we talked about this a little bit last night, but you have 500 and something daycare facilities that don't even have addresses. They don't even have physical addresses.
That's right.
You have states that are allowing individuals that are refugees or, whatever the terminology was that the Biden administration morphed it into, that are given state issued identification with no address, with no name, with no date of birth. This is happening in New York. This is happening in other areas. It's the most insane thing in the planet. And it's so insane that it's when you talk about it, people are like, no, like the non-political people are like, that can't be true. And then they find out it's true. And so, that is exactly why they went after Elon Musk. That is exactly, by the way, in my opinion, that is exactly why the 13, yourself and 12 others were swatted multiple times, was because at that point in time, the USAID argument was so strong that the Democratic Party's approval rating dropped to 20%. Historic low, and they had to do something. They had to change the subject. They had to get Elon out of the way. They had to put pressure on him financially, and that's what they did.
That's right. I mean, look at here. This is amazing. So this came out today. CBS, the brilliant, intrepid journalist at CBS finally had a response to the story today, and I'd love you guys to listen to this. So this is amazing stuff here. Just watch this real quick.
According to federal prosecutors, it was really during COVID that fraudsters set up these fake restaurants or sham businesses and health clinics that would provide things like meals to school children or behavioral health services or housing to people with addiction. And because during COVID you didn't have the same checks and balances, you had social distancing, you couldn't have the site visits, you couldn't have the in-person inspections, well, the fraudsters got away with it all and provided the receipts and collected boatloads of cash from us, the taxpayers. More than 90 people have been charged in the schemes, mostly Somalis, and more than 60 people have been convicted. Now you have this viral video getting traction online. It's from influencer Nick Shirley, and he visited several daycares, Somali-owned daycares in the Twin Cities, and basically accused them of doing the same thing, running these sham operations where kids didn't show up, but still billed the federal government and collected millions of dollars in Medicaid funds. We visited those sites too, as did state inspectors many times over the last 6 months, and we found the facts on the ground tell a different story. Those daycares, many of them were written up for safety violations, things like maybe busted equipment or staff training issues, but that's not the same as being fraudulent. So it's important to put all of this into context. Granted, fraud is indisputably an issue in Minnesota, and next year it's going to turn up the heat continuously on state officials, including Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who's running for re-election. And there are 14 programs, Medicaid-funded programs, that are currently under investigation by state and federal government. But childcare is not one of them. Again, this is something we're going to keep following well into next year.
Listen, I mean, really? That's the best you've got? CBS. Oh, my goodness. The intrepid journalists at CBS have chimed in, and they have told us, Well, there's no fraud. What do you mean? What you guys, this is just an influencer up there making noise and doing bad things and just accusing the innocent Somalis of all of their bad things that they're doing. This is so ridiculous that this is what they're doing. They're trying to claim that none of this is real. Like, seriously? That's what your argument is? None of this stuff is real at all. You know, it's not happening. We went and looked at those, but you didn't. That's the thing. And Nick Shirley called him out almost immediately, by the way. He's like, well, if you had actually gone to the locations on these places, you would know that there is this stuff happening. But of course, they didn't go to those places. And I got another friend joining the show, guys. Now we've got 4 of us in here right now. Thank you guys for joining. This is Jay. This is Jay Gatling, guys. If you guys are aware of the Mainstream Meets Wall Street show, make sure you guys follow him as well. We've got now 3 people on the live, along with the Space Live, guys. If you guys would like to request and come up onto the show, you guys are welcome to do so now. Jay, what's happening? We've been getting into this stuff. It's pretty amazing stuff.
Hey, Walter, Christopher, what's going on? Good to see you, Christopher. Somali pirates, Walter?
Yes, the Somali pirates. I mean, they're land pirates or welfare pirates or, you know, Medicaid pirates or daycare pirates. I don't know. Child pirates? I don't know.
Child care pirates, whatever.
Whatever it is. I mean, it's ridiculous stuff, man.
Insane. And it's just going to get worse.
Tax dollar pirate. It's crazy. This is the whole thing. I can't even. There's no words for it. I don't know, Walter. And this may ensnare the Somali community as well. I don't know if you saw Breitbart, but Breitbart has a story today that. Well, here's the title: HUD report finds Biden rental assistance paid billions to dead tenants. These people weren't even alive.
I mean, this is when we were talking about this stuff yesterday. You know, back a few months ago when I looked into the amount of illegal immigrants that are going to college, where's that coming from? You know, there's so many things you look at. It's every single facet of government. It's not just one. It's every single government program is riddled with this stuff. It is everywhere. It's in all of it. It's every single part of it is like this. It's just absurd. I mean, I don't even know how we even go about other than there has to be a full audit of everything, and people don't want to do that, which is what we were doing with Doge, which is why they shut it down so badly, or why they got Elon Musk out of involvement in it. I mean, it didn't shut the program down, and it looks like it's still operating. But at the same time, I mean, they clearly didn't want the real exposure to go on there, because now that this is blowing up, it's just going to keep getting bigger. It's just going to keep getting bigger.
Yeah, I mean, every single facet of the government with our tax dollars we're finding out how perverse it was. And like this, we're here a year later. This is all things, by the way, that Elon had said on Doge, where I think the exact quote he said, and is as close to the exact quote, is he said the system was set up to not be able to detect fraud. That's how corrupt the system was. And so we're seeing this across the board. We're going to continue to see this. And the thing I would always point back to is, of course, we're going into, at this point, everything's about a campaign now, right? We're in the midterm elections, 2026. This is on the board. So this has to be the talking points. This has to be the message. What are they doing with your tax dollars? Who is this going to? Billions into dead people for housing vouchers? You know, the billions, 8 billion, 9 billion in one state alone. We know the nonpartisan auditor in the state of California has now listed 8 of their state departments as high risk for fraud. Like it could be upwards of $30+ billion in fraud in the state of California alone. I mean, so, and of course, this housing fraud was in all 50 states, but the predominant amount of it was, guess where? New York, California, and Washington, D.C. So, I mean, it's just insane to me that this is what's happened, and the media literally covered none of it. Never asked any questions about it. Still aren't asking questions about it. I can't even make sense as to why they're so asleep at the wheel, other than the fact that they're the fake news media now, right? They have no interest in Donald Trump in this administration continuing to serve in office. They want the Republicans out of the majority because they need AID money.
I don't know who just tried to chime in, but if you guys are on the space,
that was me. I was just saying, like, maybe they're getting some of this money too.
Oh, I think everybody is. I think everybody's getting a piece of the money, dude. I think everybody except you and me and all the people that are paying it, everybody's getting the money. I'd like to welcome Monica to the stage. Monica, how are you, my friend?
Hey guys, good evening. Thanks for having me up. I'm so sad that Bree just left because I was actually going to direct the question to her, but I'll ask you. Um, Bree is a journalist, as many of you know, who I trust implicitly whenever it comes to factual data points. And you guys were talking about the NBC, ABC report, whatever, the bought off legacy media outlet. Who they're like we have health code violations. I'm like, but where are the children? like, but where are the children? I just kept asking myself that question out loud. I'm like, where the hell are the kids? Because that's what we're talking about with daycares. There's zero children in these places, so it's just maddening. But here's my question, Walter. I asked you this in our DMs as well. How are you moving past? Here's my question to you, and then if you can answer along with this statement, how are you moving past the C4s? And Christopher could probably speak to that as well. In your investigative work, and for people who don't know what that is, I'll let you explain that, or Chris. But also, what are you running into with regard to the Catholic and Jewish charities that have also been implicated in all things nastyville going on with HHS, where our children are concerned?
The first part of the question, I missed it. I heard something else dinged in my ear. So what was it you said?
Sure. So my question is, how are you getting past the C4s in looking for, being able to track who's fun? There is so much.
I know. There's a bunch of people are
background
messaging me right now. I'll fix it. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. You was like, is that my phone?
No, that's me.
So it's all good. So you were talking about, hey guys, your number's up, right? Like if you're one of these people who's been taking money, my question is, how are you moving past the C4 barriers into being able to truly find, where all of these roads to hell lead? Also, as it relates to Catholic charities, because we know they've also been implicated for years. By the way, this is not new to the Biden administration, right? I mean, I hope
Right.
all of us.
Yeah, but this isn't new stuff at all. This has been going on
Right.
for a long time. I mean,
Okay.
some of the stuff that I'm looking at, by the way, it
Yeah.
looks like some of these organizations, they were set up back in essentially to do right before Trump's term, 2014, 2015, stuff like that. And then when Trump comes in, they were kind of quiet for a couple years, and then 2020 hits and they just take off. They just explode. I mean, it's crazy how quickly they explode. So, it doesn't just limit to one single organization. It keeps growing and growing and growing. So, in terms of getting past, I assume you mean when you say the C4s, you're saying the 501c4s, that part of it, I haven't even got there yet, Monica. Like with what we're looking at right now, this stuff these aren't even, they're not even hiding it. Okay. Like these aren't 501c4s. These are 501c3s that we're looking at. And you missed the open of the show, Monica, where we were discussing there's something that I didn't even know existed, that apparently a 501c3 can own an LLC. Okay, so they can own one, and it can be considered a disregarded entity, and it can be a for-profit LLC and funneled right back into the F501c3, so they can own all these companies, which is crazy. I mean, that's nuts.
Yeah. That is very much so legal. So for your audience who's unaware of what a C4 is, it's an independent expenditure in political terms, and it's basically what the right likes to refer to as dark money, right? Because we think we hold the moral ant mound on that, but we don't, because everyone utilizes C4s, and it is a place where your contributors can remain anonymous and do more often than not. So whenever you're trying to find these money trails, there's nothing illegal about it, by the way. It's nasty. It's something that should be done away with. I mean, if you can put your money behind something, then own it. Is where I stand on that. Also, these C3s that are championing, and honestly, sadly enough, one of our big, and I'll leave their name out of it, but recently, one of our bigger, more in the news lately, right-leaning organizations has championed a particular presidential candidate for 28, excuse me, and that's a big no-no where C3s are concerned. Now, the left exercises that all the time. That's just how they operate. They bring people into their pulpits, they preach from the pulpit who they're going to support, and no one ever takes their C3s away from them, although they could and they should legally. But so I was just curious if you're bumping into that, but you're right. It's such a blatant disregard for any separation or in any respect for money and for law and for where the money should be going. So what are your conclusions? Like, what do you and Chris think is ultimately going to come of all of this with what appears to be like a lame duck DOJ right now?
Well, I'll tell you right now that the only thing that the journalists can do is we can keep making noise about it. I mean, that's the only thing I think we can do in terms of the journalist community, because obviously we have no power. Now, the only thing I'll say is that, we have to vote these people out. Anybody that's connected to these fraud schemes, those people need to be primaried immediately. Immediately. I don't care if you're a Republican, Democrat, I don't give a shit what part of it you're in. If you are part of these fraud schemes and you're defrauding the American people just so you can stay in office, time for you to go home. Okay. And I don't care if I would love to see you prosecuted. I think that'd be great. But at the same time, we have at least one mechanism that still operates, and that would be voting. Okay. So we need to make sure all these people are exposed. And I don't care if we have to support the opposite party in this scenario. Get these people out. It doesn't matter who they are. I don't care who they are. If you're willing to steal from the American people in your job, I don't care what position you are. I don't care if you're some high up person in the House of the Representatives. You need to be thrown out of office today, tomorrow. You primaried immediately. This stuff needs to happen. And this is something that we're going to have to all work on together. Now, the problem when you mentioned with 501c4s, that is something that I've already had many times in other investigations. They use that to hide the donor networks. For example, the group called GLSEN, which is the Gay Sexual Alliance group that operates all the GSAs and all the high schools across the country. They have a single donor of $15 million per year that's completely hidden and no one knows who it is. That's an organization, something that I've looked into pretty extensively. At one point, I actually had some interesting information that someone sent me claiming it was directly from a pharmaceutical company that produced hormone chemicals, which I thought was pretty interesting. But I was never able to prove it because, I can't see the financial record, so I don't know who's donating it to it. Now, they claimed they had photos of them at a gala with one of the pharmaceutical companies, but I can never prove it. So, that was an investigation I was doing last year. But this is the kind of stuff that we have to fix. I mean, there needs to be a lot more transparency. But again, right now, baseline here is we've got companies that are directly donating. 501c3s that are donating through LLCs that they own directly to political campaigns. And here's the theory that we're working on right now is that we think that it's possible that one of the ways that they do this is that whatever selected candidate is part of this, okay? If you find a couple of these companies that do this, I would not be surprised to find out that it is the same companies and they're all going to do it in a block. So there maybe 600 of them all donate directly to political campaigns, the maximum amount that an LLC can do, which is $2,000. I wouldn't be surprised if that's happening. So that's something I'm going to be looking into. And the moment I find any of these political candidates that have that, I'm going to go start looking for their LLC donations. And if I start to see a lot of, Somali daycares that are doing that, there's a pretty good red flag. So that's something that we'll be working on next. And that's some of the investigation stuff we're working on now.
Walter, and I don't know if you saw you may have already discussed this before I came on the air, but there is a video that surfaced. The New York Post has put it online of parents, Somali parents in Minnesota, pretending to drop off their kids at the daycare just to run cover for the daycares. They have no shame. This is, I think the point is that they are so brazen that they do not feel like they have to have a 501c4. They feel like they're untouchable with the 501c3 and like 100 LLCs. I don't know if you saw the video guy of the guy in Minnesota who has like the whatever they call it, the bull ring in the nose. Why a guy would have that, I don't know. But the point, I think I know, but the point is he openly talks about how he had 50 or 60 daycares, and he basically says, so what if they're in sheds? We need more funding for daycares. I was like, wait, what did you just say publicly? And so this is where we're at. I do think, though, that in 2026, we're going to see a lot of indictments. I think we're going to see some of these charges come to fruition for a lot of people. At least that's my hope. Because if it doesn't come in the first quarter of 2026, and even maybe in the second quarter of 2026, there's going to be some political hell to pay. There's going to be a momentum problem, and it's not going to be just some hoax or something that could just be batted down. I think the evidence is so insurmountable that there is no excuse for prosecutions to take place, or at least for indictments and things like that to take place in the first and second quarter of 2026.
Well, that's one of the things that I say that I'm going to be doing with the investigation that I'm going to do out here. What I'm going to do a bit different than what most, you see now you've got every kid with a cell phone is out on the streets doing this right now, which is good. I mean, that's fine. But what I really want to see next is the professionals get out here and actually show up and not just give you, some information, but I'm talking about on video, actual captured crime. Like, something that you can hand to a prosecutor and say, here's your case, essentially. I mean, that's, you've got HHS going out there looking at some of these places that Nick Shirley looked at, and they're going into the buildings and checking them out and doing stuff like that. But, well, what if you actually get them doing real crimes? They just had this CBS reporter come out here and say, well, there's not really any crime. We inspected those places. They said they failed safety inspections, and that's pretty much all they've done wrong. Like, sure. Yeah, the Quality Leering Center is definitely an above board location. Everyone knows that the Quality Leering, they much lear in there. And I still love that the video of the guy standing outside it, there's still no kids. Like, there's still no kids in the video. It's just fantastic. I mean, there's nobody there. I mean, they get a bunch of like 60-year-old dudes going in and out of the Somalian place, and they're like, oh yeah, we're open for business today. We only open in the afternoon, even though if you go on Google View, it shows permanently closed for the building. I mean, this stuff is so blatant, and they think we're stupid. They think we're stupid, and that's not going to fly anymore. In terms of whether or not we actually get indictments, we better. And you're right, because I've been saying this for months. If you don't have something happen, then we are going to have major political ramifications for that. And the people in the country are furious. You can't keep showing. This is one of the biggest problems that I've had this year. You keep having these big reveals of things. Big reveals, all of this crazy stuff comes out, and then nothing happens. Okay, like, you can't keep doing that. Something must change. Something must happen. And because, again, as I said earlier, people at this point are getting to the point where they don't want to pay taxes. If half the country stops paying taxes because of this crap, the government is in serious trouble. I mean, they are in serious world of hurt. And I don't know how you fix that problem, because if that catches on like a wildfire, because there's people that hate taxes anyway, and you've now given them a reason to say, I hate taxes more than anything else, and you won't even prosecute the fraudsters. Why are you going to prosecute me? The taxpayer. You're not going to prosecute the people that are stealing our money, but you're going to prosecute me, even though I'm actually a good, upstanding taxpayer. You're just wasting my money. So it is not going to be a good thing for them, and they need to get a handle on this stuff, because it has become apparent to everybody the amount of fraud is far more than anybody could have possibly imagined. And Elon Musk has been saying it the whole time. I got to give Elon credit here. I really do. This guy has proven to me, at least, that he must be one of the most honest people that exists in the major upper echelons of politics and everything else. I mean, he does. And maybe it's part of his personality. He runs Tesla a similar way. He just has, all of his shareholder meetings are open. They have like live video cameras on everything that they do. I mean, it doesn't seem like anything's hidden from this guy. And he keeps saying, this is happening, and they claim it's not happening. And then at the end of all that, it turns out he was right. There's billions of dollars worth of fraud, and no one's talking about it. I mean, there's not a real other way to go about this. Go ahead, Jacktron.
So two things. One, I think the reason that I can say this as somebody who also is neurodivergent is that we hate being lied to. It's just something that really gets on your nerves almost more than everything else. Two, I did include a video of Elon talking about this on the Katie Miller podcast if you want to play that video.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I did actually see that video. So that is probably worth playing here. But we'll continue talking about this for a minute, but then I'll pull that up because that is something worth going on too. We got a bunch of other people on the show. If you guys have your hands up, I need to go back into the show and actually look and see. So go ahead. If you have your hand up, go ahead and welcome to chime in.
Yeah, Walter, couple things. What bothers me is, and great, the mainstream media, Fox News is covering it, but it pisses me off in a way to see Fox News covering it. Where were you? Do you have no shame whatsoever? Like, to be a reporter that works for a major media network and all of a sudden you're in Minnesota, I almost feel like, how do you look in the mirror? I mean, I get it. Your boss didn't send you there. That. How do you not take it upon yourself, as you call yourself a journalist or a reporter, to have at least looked at this? This David, the gentleman, David, has been around forever. He's been talking about this forever. And nobody bothered except Nick Shirley to go and actually find him and start walking around and knocking on doors. Second thing, what I hear, Nick Shirley's not a journalist. He's not a journalist. He's not this. He's not that. Well, you know what? How about this? Find your Democrat, Nick Shirley, and go to a red state and find the amount of fraud in the red state that Nick Shirley just found in Minnesota. And guess what? Here's the difference. We'll be calling for that governor's resignation. Unlike you guys and Tim Walz, who refuses to resign no matter what. and nobody on the Democrat side is calling for his resignation.
It's
just incredible.
They're not even talking about it. I mean, they're not even mentioning it. That's the crazy thing. And I'd like to welcome Justin Hart to the stage. What's up, Justin? How are you, my friend?
Hey, good evening. This is a terrific topic, and of course, shades from previous expertise that we had over the last 5 years with the COVID hysteria, the rampant fraud that went on there. All the elements are kind of stacking up in the same way. A couple words of advice. First, set expectations low. For those of you who don't know, me and my team, we were behind Scott Atlas when he was at the White House doing completely pro bono work. We brought in and paid for ourselves in some ways a lot of data experts to help him because Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci had entire teams with them. And when Scott Atlas came in there to try to right the ship, he had nobody. They gave him nobody. So it was our team that was there really helping him along the way. That's, I think, key learning number one. If you can help these politicians, if you can help people, and offer that sort of data expertise or that on the ground expertise, that is going to be immensely helpful. Just volunteer for it, see if you can get with people and get them involved. Second thing is just to set expectations really low. As things started to wane and all the things that we had uncovered about COVID, about their lies, about the terrible policies, the implications, when all that came out, everyone expected Dr. Fauci to be frog marched out of Washington, D.C. And I, having been in politics most of my career, I had to tell them that's not going to happen. That's not how this works. So set expectations that, set them low and hopefully they can exceed them. But I'm telling you right now, a lot of the sort of fraud issues will be the way that it's set up. They're basically gaming the system, and they're going to have to show through either wire fraud or through other cases of interstate stuff that they can get these guys in other ways, because they probably set this stuff up in legitimate ways and we're able to check all the boxes, and it's a chaos monster. So they're insisting on the chaos to give them cover. And I would say those are just two key learnings that I would bring from the COVID years. See if you can volunteer your services to the government, to people that are investigating this, to local officials. We had some great officials down here in San Diego who were, really looking at the cases and trying to say, can I be the voice of sanity here? And we would get with them. We would get them in front of crowds. We would get them in front of committees. And Jay Bhattacharya, for example, is a perfect example. Jay went with us as a Stanford professor to Capitol Hill numerous times to walk the halls of Congress. I'm walking there, my 2-year-old's walking there, all my kids, my wife, and Jay was right with us side by side, giving testimony to these leaders that something needed to change at the CDC. And now here he is as head of the HHS. And that's an incredible NIH, and that's an incredible move. We never thought that would be possible. So try to find those people that can be the experts to come in, give them the support they need. If you have data expertise, if you have analytics, if you have some type of way, give that to them. Learn from the COVID experts, learn from the COVID mistakes that we made, and try to get ahead of it right away.
Justin, this is something you might find interesting because you've done some work in this. I was looking at a couple of these fraud, pretty obviously that's probably going to end up fraud. I haven't proven it yet, but the companies that I'm looking at, and the 501c3s that own LLCs that are for-profit companies that are considered disregarded entities in this. So apparently this is a common thing that I was not aware of at all, that apparently LLCs can be owned by sole proprietors and be part of a 501c3 and be tax exempt within that. So we're actually paying for these businesses to operate and not pay taxes. So we're paying them to steal from us, essentially. That's what it comes down to. And this is something I just found out today because I'm now finding, one of these groups has over 50 companies that are working directly underneath it. And none of them appear to do anything at all. And this is the kind of stuff that needs to be brought out, and we need to actually show it to people. And one of the things I really, I like that everyone's out here with cameras. I love that. It's great. It's a good thing for the country that there's a bunch of people out there willing to go out there and, put their feet on the ground and actually do this stuff. But what we really need to do is we need to have people that know what they're doing, people that actually know how to do investigations so they can show up and get all of this stuff, document the actual crimes, and then hand it to investigators so they don't even have to do any work. I mean, they can double check it, essentially, but that's what really needs to be done.
That's exactly right. And I think that those next steps that people have been talking about, going to the FEC reports, going to some of these 901s, anything that you can find that you would discover where you'd say, hey, these guys not only have C3s, I'm guessing you're going to find a bunch of 501c4s. I bet you're going to find a couple PACs that are organized around this as well, all giving money in and out, all of it legitimate on paper, but it really is disconcerting that they've gamed the system that way.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I started looking at this, this is a company that's got, last year they got $12 million from the federal government, right? And you go look at their primary address, and it's, the side, it looks like a Motel 6. Like, I mean, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. And that's how all of them are. That's how every single one of these groups that I keep looking at. So, this is, it's interesting that Nick Shirley stuff just came out because a few weeks ago, or maybe it was a month or two ago, when the initial Minnesota HHS people came out and they said that there's massive fraud. As soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, we're going to have to start looking at all the other the places where this is probably prevalent. And I was already looking in places like Columbus, Ohio. I was already looking at the Haitian communities over in my area. So, this stuff to me, I figured it was going to happen. And then Nick Shirley just blows this completely, open to the point that everybody, if you haven't seen it yet, I don't know how you haven't seen it. I'm sure the Facebook community is going to be shocked by this in a couple days when it actually hits Facebook. But I mean, outside of that, it's everybody has now seen this at this point. I remember I knew this story was ultra viral when it got to the point where I was watching, I was seeing people at the local bar that I was sitting at, and they were just like, have you seen this? And there's, showing each other the video. I knew things were it was getting to the point that everybody had seen it at that point. So, the mainstream media can pretend as if it's not happening and try and run cover for it, but that's not going to happen. So we'll see how we continue here. Okay, if you guys want to join the show, come up here and speak. You're welcome to do so. If I can't see hands right now, I don't know if anybody on the co-host can see hands, but I cannot.
Yeah, I don't see any hands right now.
I don't either.
All right, I've got one other person to bring up here on stage. Guys, make sure you guys share this link out. This is the Political Theater. This is a weeknight show at 9 p.m. Eastern. I'm Walter Curt. I've got at least one co-host with me or a couple other people that are along with me on the show. Chris Marino is also here on the live version of this show if you guys are watching on all the other and hold on a sec, Jacktron. And then we've got the other two co-hosts that are actually just in the audio version, which is the X Space, which is Jacktron and my friend Jay. So make sure you guys share the link out and make sure you guys follow all my speakers on this show. Make sure you guys follow us on there. And if you guys go to Rumble, make sure you follow us on Rumble. Make sure you guys go to WCDispatch.com. The best way you can support this show is completely run independently. There's nobody that funds this show. It's just me. If you guys want to fund this show, you want to help me be part of this show and want to fund some of the investigations that we have coming up here, that we've got a lot of stuff coming up, actually. So coming into the beginning of the year, there's going to be direct investigations that are going to be coming out. If you can go to WCDispatch.com and subscribe, or you can subscribe straight on X. So I do have subscriptions available there. If you want to support me, you want to support the show, that's always appreciated. Go ahead, Monica.
Hey, so what I was going to say is, what a wonderful time for people on the right to discover what foundational Black Americans are, otherwise known as FBAs. For those of you who are unfamiliar, it's a pretty decent sized group of individuals who champion reparations, pretty hardcore. But they are 1000% not. They will tell you they're not equal to or otherwise congruent with, as nationals, as citizens of this country, skin color, lineage, and otherwise, with anyone who was not born into this country and otherwise helped facilitate the growth of America. So what a wonderful time for the right to actually become familiar with their cause, because it could be a great time to galvanize their efforts in turning their attention away from reparations to see that, hey man, it's not actually the white guy who's been withholding from you all. It's been the entire system, primarily your illustrious Democrat Party. So I don't know, Walter, if you're familiar. I know Christopher's familiar with that group, but they're an interesting bunch. But if you're ever looking for an opportunity to again, I'll use the word galvanize, not mobilize, because that has a whole other meaning in that group. But if you were to galvanize, just the passion that centers around that group of, hey, they don't ever call them African Americans. Do not ever claim Obama as one of them, Candace Owens included. They really are the folks who are like, hey, man, we helped build this country, and all of you foreigners floating over here can float right back. And that is a quote, actually, from several of their spaces. So, yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with that group, but, might be worth looking into, people listening in who are of the political GC persuasion. You may actually want to, learn how to mobilize.
Well, listen, I think that there is a good coalition we could build in this country, and it's Americans Against Pirates. I think that's a good movement we can start. I think it's an easy movement. Listen, I think we might have a solid coalition in this country that is Americans Against Piracy on our own shores. I think that's something we can get behind. I think Americans will back that message. I think just something tells me that people don't like being robbed of their own tax dollars, and not only that, paying the people to rob us. I think that we might have a winning message there. It's just a theory. I think it might turn out all right. Sunlight, go ahead. You had your hand up.
The only pirates we want to see, Walter, are at Treasure Island in Vegas and Disney World.
That's right. Yeah, and those pirates are okay, but all the other pirates, at this point, I'm going to go buy a pirate hat and put it on. And, that's the only way I'm going to blend into the Somalian communities. I'm going to have to wear the hat and the eye patch, all that, when I show up at these places. I mean, I just want to fit in. So, it's going to have to look at it. Go ahead, Sunlight.
Yeah, you'll know it's out of control, Walter, when a whole bunch of Somalians end up in Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Pirates. So the thing that is really annoying is I put down in the purple pill, the Pentagon has failed, 7 out of 7 audits, 19 of 28 entities this last time around. And as the money gets doled out, as you're aware, gets sent in block grants, to the states from the Housing and Urban Development, from the Health and Human Services for the SNAP benefits, from the Department of Education with education dollars sent down to the states based on apportionment numbers of the number of congressional seats in that specific state. And then the state takes the money and does something with it. Where is the oversight at the federal level, Walter? That's another question that I have. Where is the Office of Inspector General, within each of these departments that are doling out billions and billions of dollars to the states? And, when we're, as you said, we're just scratching the surface. And it's kind of a double-edged sword, because not only are they stealing taxpayer money at the state level and from the feds and the local level, by the way, but they're also, when they remit money overseas, that money gets put out of circulation in the United States, so the old money multiplier doesn't necessarily kick in, because they're sending it overseas to fund, warlords and whatever other initiatives they have in their home countries. And I don't care if it's El Salvador, Nicaragua, Guatemala. I mean, if you look at the sheer amount of money being remitted out of the United States by these various illegals, and some of them legal, but the vast majority illegal, and whether it be legitimately earned or illegitimately earned, if it's under the table, it's illegitimate, right? Because they're not paying taxes on it. But, it takes it out of circulation out of the United States. This is a huge problem.
Well,
go ahead. I'd be mad as hell if I were a member of the Foundational Black Americans, Tariq Nasheed and others in the group that are pushing, that have, supported reparations or whatever. And then you have these Somalis that are in one state alone have fleeced the government for $9 billion. I would be really mad. There's no way I could support a system or a party, a political party in this instance, that obviously was complicit with it. And so this is going to be, the saddest part about this whole thing, and this is what is always so sad about these scandals, right, is that good people get hurt. You know what I mean? Good people get hurt. So like the United States federal government is freezing now $185 million in child care funds to the state of Minnesota, because they have to figure out what's real and what's legit and what's fraudulent. So there's actually moms out there that are single moms that need that money for their babies. I mean, like, dude, I have a 6-year-old in childcare, right? Like, now he's in kindergarten, but I know how expensive that is. And these scumbags rip off the system. And now these moms and dads, in some instances, don't have that extra $400 or $500 a month to support their kids in a daycare, and so that they can work. And this is the problem with corruption. This is the problem with illegal votes. This is the problem with corruption in our federal government, in our state government, is that it ultimately, in the end, hurts actual Americans who need, which is what this is intended for. The HUD saga that's now coming out, billions of dollars in HUD funding. These went to illegal immigrants, non-citizens, and dead people, which we know they didn't go to dead people.
Could I please speak on that?
And Patrick, we have a live show here, buddy. You just got to put your hand up, man. Go ahead.
It went to dead people, which really,
yes,
really
I'm a
patriarchy. Listen to me, buddy. You got to put your hand up because you were in the middle of a live show and this is being broadcast multiple places. I've already tried twice with you, so I'm sorry, man. You're going to have to just come back another night. All right, go ahead, Chris. Finish.
You're good. So what I was saying is that these went to dead people, this housing sub. If this story continues to break open, which it is, it's obviously Breitbart's reporting it, Just the News is reporting it. These dead people, we know they weren't dead people. They were illegal immigrants. They were people grifting the system. And again, it hurts everyday Americans. And so we're going to hear a different story going into 2026 about how the Democratic Party is for everyday people that are hurting, and Trump's a big bad meanie and all of these things. But the reality is they took this system, this Democratic Party today took this system and took advantage of it and covered up the corruption. And now they're going to turn around and pretend like they knew nothing about it. And it's shameful.
It is shameful. And that's reality. They have no intention of actually making this thing. They're going to act as if none of this happened. I love, you already see what they're trying to do there, right? So they're already trying to say that, well, look, we already had the prosecutions. We already had them. That's what the CBS reporter was talking about that we played earlier. We already had them. Look, they already did all the prosecutions, the Feeding Our Future stuff. They did it. Listen, Nick Shirley proved without a fraction of a doubt that all you had to do is physically go to the addresses and you can see that there is much more fraud. That's what happened. So, they may have had prosecutions. And by the way, we talked about this yesterday for just a brief moment. We were talking about this, how what I think was really going on is they said, well, Tim Walz is going to run for vice president, so we got to start arresting people in this state to make it look like they're doing something about the fraud issue. Well, but then you realize that maybe that's what they were doing. But they did is probably just did the bare minimum. And the reality is now that we know that there's $9 billion worth of it. So they didn't do all of it. They intentionally probably overlooked that fraud so that they could just use it as a political wedge. And why is it that anybody didn't really even hear about this stuff? Really? No one really knew that this stuff was as bad as it is. And now we know that it's upwards of $9 billion. That's a bit more than just the few fraudsters, and it's something tells me that the places that they're going to that are just empty or throwing them out are not just they're not failing on safety inspections like the CBS guy. Like, you guys are such a joke. You're not going to cover any of the fraud. You don't have any interest in actually talking about it. You guys are all just as corrupt as the complicit politicians that are in on it in the first place. Okay, I've got a couple hands here, so I want to make sure I get through those real quick. Let's see here. This is new speaker on the stage. What is up, Simona?
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Walter. That's the first time I'm talking at your space, but I'm listening. This is a little bit out of topic regarding Somalia, but it's still regarding the pirates. I put in a purple field what New York passed a law, COPA Act, and I want your advice. What do you think about that? Now, and the owner of the property in New York, they pretty much forced to sell their property to the government or to NGO. We cannot vote our system out in New York. It's very corrupt with illegals and everything. I vote Republican all the time, but a lot of people did, but it's very hard to vote our system out in New York. What is your suggestion? Because the property taxes are keep going higher and higher. And now, even if we want to sell the property, we're probably going to get half of the price that we invested in. It's very scary. I need your input if you can. Thank you so much for letting me speak.
Of course.
My concern.
Well, this is something that's a real problem. So blue states have this issue, and it's only growing. You see what's happening in California, right? They're talking about a wealth tax now. That's going to kill the state. If you do a wealth tax, Silicon Valley is going to go. They're going to be immediately gone out of California, and California is already essentially bankrupt. And if you take Silicon Valley out, they are more than bankrupt. Those companies are the only thing keeping California afloat. If all of Silicon Valley leaves tomorrow, which, by the way, Silicon Valley, the idea of a wealth tax is insane, okay? For just one, unrealized gains, that is like all Silicon Valley does. Silicon Valley is a startup area. I mean, it's the startup hub of the world. So if you start saying unrealized gains, 5% tax, and you've just killed the entire startup business that exists in California, Silicon Valley will disappear overnight. That would disappear overnight. They will all leave. They will go somewhere else. I mean, they'll all end up in Texas, probably. I mean, so they're insane for doing that. The problem is, I think, in these states, that the federal government has a responsibility in this scenario, which is what I think the SAVE Act needs to be. There needs to make sure that the elections are actually fair across this country. They need to have real elections. We can't have fraudulent elections. It doesn't matter what their states' governments are doing. You should still have to have legally fair elections in some way. That needs to be enforced. The problem I think we have is not necessarily the state governments. It's the fact that our judicial system doesn't have any interest in prosecuting these people. We're not going after anything. The judicial system currently seems to have no interest in prosecuting real criminals. They want to let criminals off in major cities, even if they've been in there 70-something times. They just keep letting them back out on the streets. They don't prosecute anybody. They don't prosecute anybody for anything. I mean, these fraudsters that are doing this, even if you charge them, apparently there's, now we've learned that there's one of these cases that had a unanimous jury verdict, right? Unanimous jury verdict, and the judge threw it out. What do you do with that? What do you do when a judge throws out a unanimous conviction from a jury? How do you respond to that? There's nothing that can be done in that scenario other than the fact that the judge themselves must be removed. But you're not going to remove them because they were installed by the same people that put them there. I mean, it is a real problem. It is a real problem, and I think that at some point there needs to be some level of accountability that happens at the state level, at the local level, at every single level. But how do you vote yourself out of it? I don't know. The only thing I can think is that we need to deport more people. I think that's probably a better option. Deport more people and start focusing in these big blue cities where they have tons of these people. Who cares if the local law enforcement doesn't want to assist you there? Arrest them if they get in the way. I think that's the best option. That's why, by the way, the deportation stuff, all the stuff that ICE is doing, it's still very popular. No one's upset about this stuff. No one doesn't like this stuff. And the Democrats haven't figured this out yet. Somehow they still haven't figured this out. They think that at some point Americans are going to be very upset by the deportation stuff. No, they're not. Okay, deportations are a very popular topic to people. People want less immigration in the United States, legal and illegal. By the way, they want both. They want less of all immigration. That has been something that has been a popular thing for years. It is not something that has changed. And all the deportation stuff, no one's unhappy about it. Okay, there's like a 5 for 10%, and those are the people that are probably making money off of the fact that there are illegals here. So DC doesn't like the fact that we're deporting people, but fuck DC at this point. Okay, Sunlight, you have your hand up. Go ahead. No? Am I misreading that the hand is up there? Go ahead, Monica.
No, I'm sorry. I was doing a little research, but
you're fine.
I thought I'd just do a quick spot check, Walter, on remittances in 2024. The top 8 countries remitted over $150 billion. One of the ways to, a couple ways to, help with the self-deportation, because we're never going to get there, by rounding up the individuals. Even if it was 10,000 a day, we wouldn't be able to get rid of the 10 million out of the 25 million that Biden let in. But self-deportation, if you actually implement and hold companies' feet to the fire with E-Verify, that's one way. If they can't be hired, through the E-Verify system. And the second way is if you, just end remittances. If you can't send money back,
listen to me.
There's no reason for you to be here.
Listen, I agree with you. And here's something that's crazy, okay? I didn't learn this until probably a couple months ago. In the Big Beautiful Bill, they tried to tax remittances. They tried to. They were going to tax remittances. You know what the initial pitch was? 5%. How sad is that? 5%. You know what it ended up getting negotiated down to? 1%. 1%. That's what our stupid ass Congress decided to tax remittances at. 1%. I mean, it's unbelievable, really. You start looking at this stuff and you're like, what? Why? Well, what do we even have remittances for in the first place? You tax it at 100%. Everything that gets sent out, we just take it. I mean, if you take it out of our country, all that is sucking money out of our economy to float, friggin' Somalia, which turns out they're doing such a great job. I mean, we just love the Somalian community. They're doing a great job for us here. We're huge fans of them. And these people, they don't care about this country. They don't care about this country at all. I mean, these people that you suck money out of the country and you send it back home, tax them at 15, 20, tax them at whatever the current tax rate of the average American in this country, which is like, what, 20% or something like that? Tax them at that rate if they're sending it out of the country. What's wrong with that? I don't see any problem with that. But our useless Congress negotiated from 5 to 1. Like, wow. Well done. That's useful. I mean, it's this most pathetic thing ever at this point. These are the useless people in Congress we need to get out of here.
They're catering to their corporate interest, right?
Yeah, well, they're catering to their own pocketbooks at this point. I think that's the reality of it.
That is such a smack in the face. 5% is a smack in the face. 1% is laughing in your face while smacking you.
Yeah, I mean, but you got to think about it. Look, I mean, we've been talking about this for a while now on this show. For the past couple months, we've been talking about, Ilhan Omar's rise and how strange that was, and why all the Somalian fraud comes up all at the same time that Ilhan Omar is doing all this. We've been talking about this for a minute now. Now, what do you think the chances are that a ton of these politicians, especially at the higher ends of it, the remittances go out to those countries, and then they somehow manage to get back into the political campaigns of those politicians? What do you think the chances of that are? I think they're pretty high. I think we've proven that out. Oh yeah, it's 1%, just 1%.
1%.
Yeah, that's probably true. Go ahead, Monica.
So I don't want to change the subject at all, but I am so curious by your latest guest on our panel with Prescott being the Department of War Acquisition Program Manager. Prescott, I'm curious if you would, and Walter, if you would be opposed to Prescott possibly answering a question about what can we expect out of our latest.
Evening, Monica. Just a first quick point. I am here in my personal capacity, not in any capacity endorsed by Department of War.
Excellent. Thank you.
That's all right. That's all right. But welcome to the show, sir. I'd love to hear your perspective on any of this stuff.
That any of this for sure, but I'm very curious about your unofficial opinion on what we can expect coming out of our latest kinetic activity in Venezuela.
Before I will say, we've been talking about remittances, right? So before I came back into the Department of War, I'm a prior Marine Corps officer. I was in industry for close to a decade. I was the first pro-Bitcoin politician in the state of Illinois not politician, but I was a candidate for state rep. Unfortunately, Bitcoin tanked as I was running, so it never came to fruition. But I believe a lot in the ability for people to take care of their own assets and have self-custody. I'm trying to sell my house right now. It's a lovely little lake house, but when you stack up a dock fee at $60,000, you want to put a seawall in for another $60,000 to $100,000. Got to replace a roof. All the maintenance on property is just a real pain in the butt. And I'm looking forward to selling my property and sticking 100% into Bitcoin. So personally, I see a lot of opportunities in that particular space. I didn't come on here to talk about Bitcoin, but that's, you were talking about remittances. So I do have to say, Walter, I love the idea of taxation for people sending money out of the country, but at the same time, me as a self-sovereign person and believer of Bitcoin, I also wrestle with that idea because I do believe people should be able to take their hard-earned money and stick it into something, which if you own it, you can move it anywhere and nobody can tax it. So I guess I'm curious to hear your perspective on that. It is a challenge for our nation. I hate to see fraud, and I hate to see all of us working hard for the money that we try to earn and then just seeing politicians come in and rip it out of our hands and go send it to causes that really have nothing to do with supporting American children and, the neighbors and the families that we have here in this nation. So, that's where my heart is. That's the oath that I took to continue to serve and defend our way of life. And it is very sacred to me for what it means in the founding of our Constitution of this United States of America. It's a very important set of principles that's inscribed in writing. That it seems like the further we go along in this experiment as we approach 250 years, it just sadly seems like a lot of the politicians are not taking their oaths seriously, and they are, as someone else mentioned on the panel, very much beholden to corporate interests. How do we overcome that? Is Elon Musk's money of propping up midterm elections enough? Unfortunately, I don't think it is. So I don't know what the path is forward, and I think that there is a great space yesterday where someone was mentioning that, back in the day when people were really struggling and they came here, when you wanted to build a house in the 1700s. You got to go cut down trees. You got to get a bunch of guys together. You got to go saw down logs. It takes you a while to process. It was hard. You're getting stung by stuff out in the middle of the woods. Now, if you want to talk about revolt, what is the young man of America these days doing? I mean, they're not in that situation. They're playing video games at home and air conditioning. It's going to be hard to convince people to get out of their comfort and go fight for this nation in a different way other than going to the voting box. And at that point, it's not even digital. So, I mean, we're really faced with some trying times. How do we really turn the tide and shift back towards the constitutional principles of this nation? I'm at a loss. I still will fight for it, but you know, it's really hard to see as I get older. Now I'm 40 years old as of this year. I'm doing my best to keep in shape and keep, you know, at the ready with as many firearms and, you know, rounds of ammo as I can muster. But at the same token, like, I'm only getting older. You got to motivate the young people of this nation to fight for what we have all done generation after generation as Americans to keep this country maintained. Because if America falls, there's nowhere else. You know, you can't go anywhere else in the world. It's just us. How do we hold the ground? It's a big question I have in my mind as we get older.
Well, that's a great statement there, and I've got a couple things to say on what you said there. So, one, there's a famous conservative writer. I think it's not C.S. Lewis. What was the guy's name? I can't remember right now. But there's a great conservative writer that at some point he said that every year, every generation has their own battle with freedom, and you have to figure out your way to actually maintain it each way. And that is a very true thing. Every generation has their own battle with it. I mean, the previous generation to us, I would say, there was probably the fight against the Soviet Union. And then the Soviet Union fell, and we had a short period of time where we thought everything was fine. And now what the opposite is happening. Now we're fighting our own government for the own tyranny that within our own government, because our own government has gotten lazy and corrupt and fat and happy and on their own problems. One point on what you said about remittances. Listen, remittances to me, if you come to this country and you are an immigrant in our country and you are sending money out of our country, you should be taxed on it. And it's one thing if you're a citizen of this country, you can do whatever you want with your money if you're a citizen of this country. I don't care what you do. But if you are a immigrant in this country and you come here and all your mission is to send your money out of the country, then you should be taxed on that, okay? Listen, if we tax our own citizens 1,000 ways. I mean, how many ways do you get taxed? Just think about it. Like, you buy something, you get taxed. Oh, yeah. You spend something, you get taxed. You make money, you get taxed. You die, you get taxed. So I think that there's no problem in my eyes that we can come up with another tax for the people that are just here in our country. I don't see any problem taking more of their money. If they want to send it out of our country where it doesn't even come back into our economy, I think that's a good thing. Well, let's tax that at least. That's a good thing for us. And I don't see any problem with that whatsoever. In terms of what you mentioned about Bitcoin, 100% agree. Bitcoin, crypto, love this whole idea. I love the entire idea of us actually having a separate financial system. I think it's a great thing, and I think it's something that everybody should look into, and everybody should be part of it in any way that you can. The one thing I would say is don't listen to the hype masters that talk about some of the stuff, because you'll just lose all your money. I mean, like that's crypto is a very, very easy way to make a large portion of money turn into a very small portion of money in like seconds. And I've watched it happen. 100%. So, you know, just make sure you're paying attention to the crypto stuff. I tell everybody that it's great to get into it. But if somebody tells you here, buy the new hottest meme coin, no, don't. Right. Not a good idea.
Bitcoin's very different than crypto, hence it's not regulated by the SEC. It's treated like a commodity.
That's right.
So yeah, but yeah, and honestly, on your property tax or on the taxes point, I think all property taxes should be abolished. I hate hearing about little old ladies that can't pay their property taxes and their home gets taken away. I think that's absolutely criminal behavior on behalf of this nation. Once you buy something, you should own it and be able to live in it.
That's right. The property taxes should be abolished across the entire country. There's no question about that. To me, the idea that we can keep raising property taxes, so even if you own your own home and you've owned it for 20 years, you've still got to pay rent to the government just to live in your own home. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, and it should be illegal.
This is the crisis that's happening in California and a lot of Democratic areas actually right now. Is the inflation of property taxes because of the cost of the housing, because of terrible policies. So what, you know, we see this in California where, you know, folks that have lived in their house since, let's just say like 1960 something or 1970, their house in the Pacific Palisades, they purchased at like $110,000, which was a nice house back in those days, is now worth $1.2 million, and they have to pay taxes on that. Like, well, that's a huge deal, right? And then of course we see what happened in the Pacific Palisades, and they lose everything, right? And so now folks are being forced out. You're seeing this in urban areas where where actually a lot of the Democrat machine in these urban areas, especially at the county level with the county assessors, they manipulate the property tax records, increase it, then they have their political insiders go to these commercial property owners and folks and tell them that they can get their property tax down to what it used to be, and if you sign this agreement and we get 40% of the savings, right? And so so they're making tons of money doing it that way. And what happens after decades of that taking place is that these people die off. The machine is dying off in these urban areas, and you have, really, quite frankly, artificially manipulated property values. And so this is a massive issue across the United States now, and especially post Biden in the massive inflation that took place. And we're going to see probably an adjustment, I think, in the relatively near future. In terms of the young kids, one of the great things I do see in promise is, one, these young men, they're coming up very conservative. This is a very conservative group of young guys that are coming up in this country right now. We also are seeing, because of the Department of War, we're also seeing a massive recruitment boost, because they have a military now that is focused on winning war and teaching war, and not this other cultural BS that we saw, from hyper woke military leaders that were put in power versus actual military leaders. And so, I hope this continues to be the case after this term, because we need, now more than ever, we need a strong military. China's obviously our biggest adversary, but we're also facing Russia in a coordinated effort to undermine our country, and even a domestic effort at this point. And so we do need a strong National Guard. We do need a strong military, and of course we need strong borders. And if this administration continues to be hampered by a coordinated effort to undermine our country, then we are never going to get back on the right track. And that's the problem I have right now with this entity, is that we're facing domestically, is it continues to kick a ball down the field that everybody knows is wrong. This is an 80-20, everybody, 80%, 90% of America wants strong borders. This is not controversial, right? But we have a little sect over here in the Democratic Party that believes we should have no borders, and they're in control of that party.
Yes, they are. Yeah. If we can finally figure out how to get the politicians out of office that have decided that all the 80-20 issues, that they want to take the 20 on the 80 every single time, we'll be in a much better place in this country. Much, much better place. Guys, we're running out of time here. I do have a couple more hands up here on the show right now. So let's see. We've got, here, Louis Schenkner. You go ahead, and then we've got one more, and then we can go.
Okay, well, Feliz Navidad and a Happy New Year to all you guys. One sec. Can you turn that down a little bit? Turn it down to like a 9. Sorry, that's my driver. And look, I have some beautiful words to share. Thank you, Prescott, for elucidating so clearly the issues facing my generation. I am 27. My birthday was on the 16th, thank God. And frankly, I have some good news, Walter. I have not filed the paperwork. We're doing it on the New Year's Day. But I will be running in Byron Donalds' congressional district for the Republican Party. And what we are going to do is make America fun again. We have built out a team of operators within the United States based out of former military members and leaders of the Boy Scouts back before the woke mind virus, well, I want to be respectful, destroyed the Scouts or tried to do so. And we have communicated with several foreclosed Boy Scout properties in order to create a summer program to honor the forthcoming 250th anniversary of 1776. When I was a college student at UMass Amherst, before Antifa hounded me off campus at the behest of Governor Maura Healey, which led to my current Floridian exile, I started a broadcast in November of 2019. It was called the Minuteman Broadcast, and we are actually currently relaunching it. But the slogan that I adopted at the time was 2020 is the new 1776. And dare I say it, I might have been a little bit too early, because 2026, my friends, is the launch of the new American Revolution. And this is a nonviolent revolution. This is a revolution of tremendous significance. We are going to usher in the golden age of America. When President Trump stated during his inaugural address that beautiful day in January this year, it was not just political hyperbole, my friends. This was a divine mandate being manifested through the mouth of a modern-day Cyrus. And if anyone wants further elucidation on that particular theological standpoint, please look up my cousin on YouTube, Rabbi Jonathan Kahn, who wrote The Dragon Prophecy, which Dinesh D'Souza turned into such a beautiful film recently. He's in Wayne, New Jersey, and I'll be seeing him soon. Other good news on a personal level, I am getting married, thank God, to a very, very beautiful, special woman in 2 weeks.
Congratulations,
Things are
sir.
finally coming through.
Congratulations.
And what we are going to do is inspire everyone, black, white, red, yellow, gay, straight, liberal, Democrat, I don't care. What you need to understand, my friends, is that the youth of America have been sleepwalking into communism and anti-American sentiments from hostile foreign and domestic actors on the right wing in the aftermath of the assassination of my personal hero, Charlie Kirk. And because of that, I personally believe that the Lord has given me a sign in a manner in which only I would understand, in the form of, on the exact same day that I protested a BDS event at UMass Amherst with Linda Sarsour, Sean King, Roger Waters, Omar Barghouti, Dima Khalidi, on November the 12th, 2019. This event was titled Criminalizing Dissent, How the Zionists Silence Palestinian Voices. As a result of my protest, I was hounded off campus. Antifa circulated a petition demanding I be expelled. They sent me thousands of death threats. They chased me. I couldn't finish. I still don't have a college degree because of these communists.
Well, that's okay, Lewis. You know
Nevertheless,
that's all right, Lewis, because college degrees are essentially useless now anyway. There's not very much to go to.
It's a blessing. I say every morning, thank you, Lord, for my enemies. They are my most noble fans. And ultimately, 6 years to the day, not exaggerating, 6 years to the day, on November the 12th, 2025, my legal team in the Suffolk County Superior Court of Boston proved, or Superior Court of Massachusetts proved, that over the last 6 years, the University of Massachusetts Amherst, at the behest of Governor Maura Healey, has made materially false statements to the court, perjured themselves over the series of 5 years in affidavits, and have intentionally destroyed evidence in order to try and have this lawsuit disappear. And not only did they do it to me, they also did it to another student who they thought would be similar to me, named Mason Woolley, in his pro se litigation. And then they settled his pro se litigation, even though one of them was dismissed with prejudice, and gave him $10,000. Then he went to a small village.
Lewis,
called
I like
Steamboat
this
Springs,
is an interesting story,
and
but
was
we do
set
not
up.
have time to go through the entire thing.
Ultimately,
Though.
I just thank you. I'm sorry. God bless you guys.
No, you're
It's gonna
fine.
be a
You know,
year of
it's
total
just the
victory.
only reason I'm interested. But you mentioned that you're running in the Byron Donalds district. Now, let me tell you, that is a jungle primary, and there are a shitload of people running in it now. I think there's now you would make 11. I think there was 9 before. Now I think it's up to 11. You know, and I've met almost all of the people that are part of it. You know, this is a very, very interesting race that's going to be going there. So it should be interesting to watch. But guys, everybody who showed up at the show this evening, I appreciate everyone who came here tonight. Thank you guys for being here. This is the Political Theater. This is a weeknight show, 9 p.m. weeknights. Now, tomorrow night is, New Year's. So I don't think we're going to be on the show tomorrow night. But we will be on New Year's Day. And then coming into next week, guys, the show's changing up. We're going to be doing a lot more travel. There's going to be a lot more, investigative work that's been coming out. So, guys, make sure you follow the show. Make sure you follow myself. Make sure you follow my co-host here. This is Chris Marino. What is your at? It's at the Chris the Warrior, right? Is the name of the show on your name on X, right?
At the Chris Marino.
Yeah, that's right. At the Chris Marino. Make sure you follow him. Make sure you follow all my co-hosts up here on the show. Make sure you follow Monica. Make sure you follow all my friends up here on the show. Make sure you guys subscribe to the people that you can subscribe to up here. If you enjoy this show, go to WCDispatch.com and you can always join the actual platform there. That's the best way you can help the show is become a paid subscriber there. It's only $5 a month, guys, if you want to be part of it. Exclusive content is going to start coming out next week. There's going to be a lot of exclusive stuff that's going to be coming out, and there's only way you're going to be able to see it is going to WCDispatch.com or subscribe directly on X. And so, guys, we will be back on, I guess it is Thursday night for more of the Political Theater. Thank you guys for being here, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks, guys.
Some folks are born with liberty. equity spark their hearts beat red, white, and blue. When the anchors sneer and the cameras bark, they turn the lens right back at you. Truth bound, ain't for sale, ain't for sale. We're not the party line sons, no, we ain't for sale, ain't for sale. We're the vigilant ones, so. Some folks inherit silk-lined halls, spend our sweat while preaching share. But when the tax man wraps his knuckles raw, their mansions suddenly look bare, impaired. Ain't for sale, ain't for sale. We're not their banker-raised hares, no. Ain't for sale, ain't for sale. We're the vigilant ones, so. Yeah, some paint stars on press room lies and send the common men to toil. Ask them, how much truth will you trade tonight? They mutter, more noise, more noise, more noise. Ain't for sale, ain't for sale. Not the theater's pawns, friend. It ain't for sale, ain't for sale. We're America's steadfast one. No, we won't be spun.